Welcome to the Her Vibe is Pretty podcast, where you'll be guided on how to step up into your evolved woman,
design your dream life, and start living it. Let's get vibey.
What's up, loves? Welcome back to another episode of the Her Vibe is Pretty podcast. Today, we are going to start out by sharing with you guys that we have decided to extend our merchandise sale through the end of the month. So if you haven't heard yet, we recently dropped a summer merchandise line and it is fire. If you're watching the YouTube, you can see me wearing one of my vibey oversized tees right now. Mary is wearing one of her oversized crew necks. So we have so many options, so many styles, so many awesome colors for our summer line and lots of different price ranges. We have tank tops, we have oversized tees, we have hats, we have a cropped crew, which is so freaking cute. That's our hands down. It's the best seller.
I think on almost every single order, someone has ordered that cropped crew. I need one ASAP.
Yeah. And it's a good choice. So I have one, I have the dusty blue one and I am obsessed with it. It's really nice for like the summer, but it'll also be really good for the fall. You know, those fall days where it's like not hot, but not cold. You need something for in between. It's perfect for the in-between weather.
Yes.
So you can get 20% off if you use the code VibeySummer. But if you want 30% off of your entire order, all you have to do is rate and review our show on whatever app you're listening to the show on. Obviously, it's really easy and user-friendly if you're listening on Apple, but you can rate and review the show, I think, through Apple, even if you don't listen on the Apple Podcasts. So figure out a way to rate and review us, even if you have to do it in your Instagram story. Screenshot that, send us a DM, and then we'll send you a secret code to get 30% off your order. And I want to mention, too, that we do ship internationally. So for all you international listeners, we have international bases, so we can ship to you. So it doesn't matter what country you're in, more than likely we can ship to you. So if you have problems with that, just DM us and we can figure it out, but you should be good to go.
Nailed it. Yeah, definitely check out the merch, you guys. It is so cute. I have been watching Sarah post the cutest reels and the cutest posts wearing all of our new merch from the summer line. And it is so stinking cute. And the only reason I'm not wearing it is because she has mine. So we're hanging out soon because I need to get my hands on it. And I want even more than I got for my original first order. So once you get it, take some pics, tag us in it. We'd love to see you rocking all the summer vibey stuff and also take advantage of these discounts because we don't offer them too often. So
Yay. All right. So Mary, what's been making you feel vibey this past week?
Ooh, so I was thinking about that because I feel like right now my life is a little bit of like a mundane routine. I'm doing a lot of the same things. Anyone who's had a newborn baby knows that like all you're doing is taking care of baby, feeding them, letting them sleep, changing diapers. It's just a lot of that. And so this week, I really decided that I want to start doing more things that make me feel pretty and vibey and put together on an everyday basis. So doing little things this week has made me feel so much better. Getting outside more often, even if it's with baby and going for walks, that's been making me feel better and more of a person because it like forces me to put on real people clothes instead of just my pajamas all day, which I love wearing jammies all day, but also it feels good to like get ready. I shared on the birthday episode, I have this new like blow dry brush, which just makes my hair look so much smoother and silkier. Like I got a blowout, but obviously I'm not going to the salon right now just because it's hard to get out to do anything these days. So it's like giving me that feel at home, which I love. I've been wearing like these really amazing fake lashes that you can like apply yourself at home. And I'm not a makeup expert by any means. They're literally so easy. So if you guys want the links to them, just send me a DM and I'll send it to you. That's been making me feel more put together when I don't have the chance to like get up and put makeup on for the day. I still feel really pretty and put together. And then I got my nails done this weekend for the first time in like over a year. So just like little things. I feel like it's a lot of superficial stuff, but they're things that just make me feel more put together on an everyday basis, which this mama needs.
Yeah.
And Then the one other thing I'm feeling really high vibe about is I'm releasing, so this is the first time I'm announcing it, but I'm releasing a 7-day yoga challenge for new mamas. So it's part of my
Woo!
postnatal yoga series on the app.
Heck yeah, I love
Um,
that.
yeah, I'm so excited. I just got the edits back from the girl that helps me edit my videos, and it's so cute and short and sweet and good. And it's like just what you need, because squeezing in like a full blown yoga practice is a lot harder these days. And it's, again, like people say, you hear this all the time, like parenting's so hard, like it changes your life, like it, and it is, in a lot of ways it is, but that's where you just have to get a little bit more creative about finding ways to still like do you, even when you're caring in the primary caretaker of a baby.
Yeah.
um, and so this is perfect for anyone who's busy, but specifically new moms, because the classes are all like 10 to 12 minutes, I think. And it's a 7-day series that targets different parts of the body. So yeah, I'm really excited. That's going to be, I'm working on uploading that today and tomorrow. So that'll be coming out really soon. And I'm excited about it. It feels good to get back into the work groove a little bit.
Heck yeah. I cannot wait one day after I become a mom. I'm absolutely going back to that 7-day challenge that you do.
Yes.
I think it's going to be so good. And okay, a couple of things that I want to mention just based off of what's making you feel vibey. So, first of all, what you just said about like the new moms and fitting it in, I'm so excited that you're doing this series for them because we always say it on the show, you guys, but like I think just observing, once again, not a parent yet, and this is coming from only my observations, but I feel like a lot of the times the reason that people feel really like burnt out and exhausted and like parenting is so freaking hard is because I watch moms not take time to give to themselves because they're taught, and I've watched people who are really close to me do the same thing. Like they just give everything to their kids, which I'm sure is really easy to do. And when you give, and you don't take time to stop, pause, and fill up your cup, of course, you're going to feel burnt out, depleted, exhausted, irritated, moody, all the things, which is going to create a lot of struggle when it comes to parenting,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I completely agree. And I catch myself, like, this is my internal struggle, is that I'm always the first one to be like, oh, I'll go do it. I'll go change the diaper. Oh, I'll go get the bottle ready.
Mhm.
When, as a new mom who does a lot already, it's okay to pass those tasks onto
Yes.
someone else,
Yep.
whether that's your partner,
Mhm.
whether that's a babysitter or a family member or a friend who's pitching in. Like,
Yeah.
ask for help, accept help, because if you don't and you continue to just do it all, even though there is support there that can help you and take some of it off your plate, you're going to burn yourself out.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do that. Like, I think
Right.
that's what I'm trying to say, is it's hard because it's so easy for me. Like, I'll just do it. I'll just do it. But I'm learning to say, no, you can do it. Yep, you can do this. Or
Good.
here, help me with this. This is how
Yeah.
you can help me. This is how you can support me. I think, I'm very, very grateful for the support of my friends and family
Mhm.
and Jake, through all this. I couldn't do it without them. And let me just applaud single parents out there, because I don't know how you do it. Like,
Mhm.
that would be a lot to take on by yourself. So if you're feeling that overwhelm, if you're feeling like you're being spread really thin, and you can kind of catch that from like being short with people or having that really quick temper, maybe that's a time to check yourself and see like, okay, is there someone in my support system that can help me here? Because people want to help. Like, that's the other thing too, is they want to help you,
Yeah.
but it can be hard to ask and accept
Oh
that.
my gosh. I feel like obviously you're doing a mom episode, but I feel like there are so many topics right now that we could just go so deep into because first and foremost, the part of you that's like, oh, I'll just do it. I'll just do it. I'm sure that more of you, even if you're not a mom or a dad or a parent, I'm sure that you guys, some of you can resonate with that because I've noticed that that's something that I do in my life and I'm not a parent yet is like with my relationship and my partnership or like I used to be this way in college all the time. Like, I'll just do it. I'll just do it. I'll just take the reins. I'll just do it. And I think that there are two different parts to this. It's an inner controller. Like, there's this inner controller that like just thinks that in order for things to be okay and in order to stay safe and stay happy, we have to control, which goes back to childhood. And so exploring that is like super healing in itself, is the inner controller and what needs are that inner controller trying to get met and like what I always just ask my inner controller, like, what are your intentions right now? Like, why do you actually, like, what are your intentions? Like, why do you think that you need to do this? Why do you think you're the only one who can do this? It came up again. And I've been really working on building a relationship with my inner controller again when I was with my grandma in the hospital for a couple of weeks. Like, I found myself very like, okay, well, like, I'll just go, like, I'll be with her all day. Like, I'll talk to the doctors, I'll find the nurses, I'll do this call, I'll make this call, I'll make dinner for my grandpa. Like, I'll do it, I'll do it, I'll do it. And then that led to me feeling really exhausted. And I figured out it's the inner controller. So
Yeah.
that's one piece of it. But I think the other piece too, what you're talking about is females in general tend to struggle to receive, even though we're built to like, we are literally built to receive, but somewhere along the line in our ancestors' lives, like things shifted. And it's just like, I see it all the time. And I used to be this way too. We really have struggles fully receiving, like receiving help, receiving gifts, receiving compliments, receiving money. And that sucks because like we're literally meant to receive. And when we do finally open up to receiving, life feels way juicier, more flowy, more freeing. We can more so embody our feminine energy. So yeah, I think that's another piece to it too. And it's so beautiful that you're like working on both of those things, especially as a new mom.
Yeah, it feels really good. Like I feel very refreshed coming into this week, and it's been a while since I've felt that way. And I think it is because I'm starting to get back into the things that make me me and make me feel good and, make me feel vibey.
Yeah.
And they can be silly things like getting your nails done and
Yeah.
putting fake eyelashes on, but it's like those little things I was putting off and like not doing. And now that I'm doing them, I feel good. I feel more myself.
Well, and
And
so that was the other thing that I wanted to say too is you mentioned like, oh, it's like the superficial things. But in my opinion, we are here to enjoy the fruits of this world. We're here to enjoy and absorb like beauty in all shapes and sizes and different things. Like I've always been one to appreciate aesthetics. So when I have my nails done and they're long and the shape that I want them and they're like a beautiful color, it brings me so much joy. Or when I have my lashes done, like the beauty of the lashes and the way that the lashes like bring my eyes out brings me so much joy. So it's like the whole word superficial in itself is like, who is to say what's quote unquote superficial? You know, it's like, I don't know. I feel like that was just like made up somewhere along the line. Like, that's awesome that you love enjoying the beautiful things of life, you know, and like your beauty, like the things that you find beautiful and vibey is going to be different to somebody else, is going to be different to me. And there's, of course, going to be similarities and all of that as well. But this kind of goes along with, we've been talking about the Desire Factor book for months. But Christy Whitman wrote that book and she talks about how our desires are always divine, always. Because think about it, like your desires of wanting your eyes to pop out more and wanting your nails to look pretty, it's not about the getting the nails done and the lashes in itself, but it's like who you had to become and who you have to start embodying in order to actually do those things, which is the version of you who gets up and gets ready and puts herself together, even though she's got a new baby.
Yes.
Which makes you feel vibier, which then in turn makes you feel more excited to work, to show up on social media, to inspire others to keep doing your thing, which is changing the world.
Exactly. You totally nailed it. Bravo, my friend.
Yeah. I feel like that. Okay. Thank you for listening to the Her Vibe is Pretty podcast. We'll see you next week on the show.
No, that was really good. And you're so right. You're absolutely right. And that is exactly how I feel. I feel better in my everyday life when I'm doing those things and I feel more myself. And
this is, I have to bring up this one real quick, just because it's coming to mind because it actually got brought up this last weekend with some people. Boob jobs, I feel like, is another one. Like that's one that tends to get like a really bad rep. And of course, like I've seen influencers, and just to preface, I don't have a boob job at all, but I've seen a lot of influencers talking about like how sick they got after them and like getting them out. But I feel like boob jobs in itself is something that people label as like superficial. And I think it's all about the intention, right? Because there could be somebody with the intention of like, oh, I want a boob job because then I'll be happy, which we all know it doesn't work like that. Right. But at the same time, like I know people who desired a boob job and it wasn't about the boob job in itself. It's who they had to become to save the money to get the boob job. You know, they had to like level up into a higher version of them in order to, and they had to like lean more into abundance to create that financial abundance to even afford that. And I'm sure they encountered a lot of challenges and difficulties along their journey, which helped them level up into a higher version of them. So your desires are divine no matter what. Just make sure you all understand
I love that.
that.
Okay, Sarah, what are you feeling high vibe about this week?
Okay. That conversation, all of this. I am feeling high vibe because, well, by the time you guys listen to this, I'll already be home. But I'm leaving on Wednesday morning for the Upper Peninsula. So if you're not familiar with Michigan, we have like two different parts to our state. We have like a Lower Peninsula and an Upper Peninsula. And you guys, our Upper Peninsula is literally like, you're going to have to look up images if you don't know what Michigan is or where it is. Look up photos of the Upper Peninsula in Michigan. Look up like
Pictured rocks.
yes, thank you. Pictured rocks and Black Bear. Like there's just so many beautiful places that look like other countries. Like it doesn't look like the United States. It looks like it's like the clear blue water and it's just like gorgeous, gorgeous nature.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's not a lot of service. So we are leaving Wednesday morning. We'll be there for 5 days and we're just going to explore the Upper Peninsula and I'm going to be in nature. We're staying on cabins on a lake and we're going with Zach's family. So his brother, sister-in-law's parents, and then nephews. So it's going to be like a cute little fun family vacation of lots of nature. And my one day in-laws are super down to do yoga by the lake. So we're going to do that and just be, and I'm not going to be on my phone a lot, which will be really nice. So that's what's making me vibey, is just really looking forward to just being. I feel like I need it after I wrote a Facebook post a few minutes ago before we started recording this about how like, I feel like these past 4 weeks, I have been through like all of the emotion that a human could experience in a lifetime. Like I went through all of the emotions in a span of 4 weeks. And I went through like, there's been so much like hospitals and funerals and celebration of life and weddings. And we sold the house that we flipped and good things are happening in my Breathe Free course. So it's like all these different emotions and it's been a lot, but it's been beautiful, which actually this is a great segue into our topic today. So I'm just really excited to get away and to just like be and let everything sink in and let myself just like process everything that's happened in this last month, which has probably been one of the craziest months of my entire life.
Yeah. What perfect timing to get away. Have you been to the UP before?
Once when I was little. So
okay. So this is like your first real trip where you're going to actually probably appreciate it more than when you're younger. It's such a beautiful, beautiful part of our state and part of our country in general. And I've actually only been there during the winter. Which is also very beautiful in the winter, but very different than what it'll be like this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like with all that you have been through, all of those emotions, all of those life-changing events, it's so good. Like what perfect timing to have that chance to get away and unplug and reconnect and ground.
But yeah, okay, let's transition and get into our topic today. It is such a good one.
Yes.
Per usual. I feel like I'm always saying that, but like we don't choose topics that suck. We really don't.
We want to like talk about juicy things that we actually want to talk about and dive into and share our stories and experiences and insights.
Yeah. So want to introduce it, Mary? Go ahead.
Yeah. So today's topic is how to turn your shit into gold. Silly name, but what we mean is turning those shitty, hard, frustrating experiences in our life, which we all have, into valuable gold and lessons and ways for us to continue to grow and evolve.
Yeah.
And so we just wanted to dive deep into that because we've had some things come up recently, but also we were reflecting on past experiences that we've had that we'll share of just shitty experiences, because in the scheme of life, as you know, like you can't control what happens to you. You can only control how you respond to it. And it's important, like things are going to be thrown your way, curveballs, problems, challenges, whatnot. But the lessons that we are going to talk about here, the things that we talk about in our podcast in general, will help you navigate those experiences to make them seem much smoother, much easier, and that you can really get that gold nugget from what you're experiencing to continue on for the rest of your life.
Mhm. I would say too, just listening to you say that, I feel like knowing what I know about law of attraction and manifestation, we can control some of the things. Like we can control, I feel like, a lot of our lives, but I feel like there are things like that, happen with other people that is more so like that area of where we can't maybe control it. So like, but I don't know, at the same time, I feel like there's a part of like our souls chose these human experiences knowing exactly what they were going to look like. So where I'm getting at is like my grandma transitioning and choosing to move from earth into the next realm. That was something that was like out of my control that I now get to process and move through. And at the same time, I feel like, and of course, this is like personal opinion, but I feel like my soul chose to come into this body knowing that when my human experience of Sarah, the identity of Sarah was 26 years old, her grandma, who she was very close with, would transition. I feel like my soul knew that before coming in. So I do believe that a lot of the stuff we can shift, but like there's stuff that we're going to talk about today that you just can't control, like my grandma transitioning, and Mary has a couple of stories too. And it's like, we can either, and you've heard us say this before, but we can choose to fall into the belief that this is happening to me and like I'm a victim and life sucks and this sucks and everything sucks. Or we can turn that shitty experience into the gold by approaching it from a place of this is happening for me. Let me learn the lessons. Let me find the gold in this shitty situation. Not to say that we're going to have a shitty experience and spiritually bypass and be like, fuck the feelings we're feeling. Let's just find the gold. That's definitely not what we're saying. And we're going to speak on that a little bit too. You absolutely, in order to even find that gold, to truly find the gold in the shitty experiences, you have to feel, you have to process, you have to dive within, you have to deal with those lower vibrating sensations, those darker emotions. I am a firm believer that like in order to access our lightest light, in order to access that state of divine, unlimited, ultimate peace, bliss, expansion, and joy, we have to go into the dark feelings first. We have to go into the shit in order to actually get the gold. And I just looked at my time and it's 4:44 and that's an angel number. So whatever I just said, because I already forgot it, make sure you guys write it down, highlight it, rewind this and listen to it again, because angel numbers mean that like something's aligning.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think that is like one of the biggest takeaways is shifting that mentality from this happening to me to this is happening for me. And how I like you're the one who kind of introduced me into like that way of phrasing it. One strategy I want to share that I've done for several years now is like kind of a series of journaling prompts is like because like Sarah said, you don't want to spiritually bypass and you want to not want to, you have to feel these feelings. Like if you want to, and I'll share a story about how when I didn't do that and how it still is like lingering within me. So you need to feel those feelings. You need to experience the emotions that kind of suck and feel shitty to experience. So the journaling prompts that I used to do on when bad things would happen is first off, just writing out and like brain dumping, like what happened. Like let the situation, whatever it is, like get it out of your mind and like onto the page. So whether you're writing that in your journal or typing it or voice noting it on your phone, go through like what happened and just talk the whole thing out. And you'll be amazed at the clarity of the situation you'll have when you do that. Because I feel like for me, when shit happens, I get so caught up in my mind about it sometimes that it like makes it so much worse than it actually is.
yeah.
And when I journal about it, it's like this feeling of release and this clarity, like, okay, I can handle whatever's happening to me.
Yeah. Or if you're not a journaler, you also could share it with a friend, because I know yesterday something like this happened. And of course, make sure the friend's okay to hold the space. Like I would highly recommend asking your friend or your partner first, like, hey, can you hold space for me to talk this out? Because yesterday something happened and I did that with Zach and it helped so much. So just another idea.
So first start off by getting it all out, sharing it vocally or writing it down, whatever works for you. And then start to reflect on the question, where is the lesson in this? And what can I learn from this situation? So this is again taking that's that shift in mindset of like this is happening to me. I am a victim to like, okay, this is happening for me. How can I use this situation to better myself? Or like, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? And reflect on that. And like, sometimes the answer is very obvious. Sometimes it's a lot harder and you have to dig really deep because you feel like you have done no wrong, or you feel like there's nothing you can learn, like you are this victim. But I really challenge you to like get past that block and figure out how you can grow from this. Um, because I heard this on a podcast and I can't remember who. I think it might have been Aubrey Marcus, where he talks about how when the shittiest and hardest things happen to you in life, like when you're going through, it's terrible. Like you might be in survival mode. You might be in just like, I need to get through this. Like you feel so low, like you have hit a rock bottom. When you're feeling that low feeling going through it, it sucks. But once you get past it, once you process it, once you are like through the fog or whatever, and you look back, you are almost always like so grateful for what happened to you
Yeah.
because there was growth there, because there was transformation there. And that can be so hard to see in the moment.
Yeah.
But if you're able to know that, so that when you're going through the shit, you can like shift that perspective to be like, this sucks and I'm angry or frustrated or overwhelmed or whatever, but I also know that I'm transforming.
Yeah.
I'm like the cocoon, the little caterpillar that's in the cocoon, and I'm trying to fight my way out. Like it's hard and it feels impossible. And like, will I ever get out of this thing? But then you turn into this beautiful butterfly, and you know, you're so grateful for the lesson that you learned and where you are now, even though it sucked to go through that.
So beautiful. So another thing that I want to add on to those journaling prompts, my absolute favorite one, which is pretty much the exact same as one of your last ones, but I just worded it a little differently, is if this experience were my teacher, what would it be teaching me? And you guys, I'm such a visual person. So I seriously will see a situation like morphed into a teacher in the front of the classroom. So I will literally like see this because it's almost, I don't even know how to explain it in words because it's like a thought thing, but it's like when you're little, you are, or even in college, you are sitting in your seat and you have a teacher teaching you something. So one of my situations, for example, that I'm still flowing through is my grandma transitioning from earth into the soul world, into heaven. And I, was by her side for a majority of the 2 weeks that she went from healthy to fully transitioned into the soul world. And that was like a really wild thing. So it's like, I'm asking myself if if that 2 weeks of her getting sick and then transitioning were a teacher, I visualize that situation in front of the classroom and me in the student seat. What is this teaching me? And then I look at it from that perspective. Something else that I want to add that, so, you said like sometimes you're in the cocoon. Like I love that analogy, the cocoon and the caterpillar and the butterfly. Another thing, so I used to go to a Bible church when I was in college, and they shared something that was super powerful, and I still 100% believe in it today. And it's basically, they were like, when you are doing your life, it's as if you were driving a car from Michigan to Florida. So for those of you who are not from the United States, that's probably about a 24-hour drive, something along those lines. So it's a really long drive. So they were like, if you're seeing your life as if you are in the driver's seat, right? So if you're driving from Michigan to Florida, you're going to you're going to hit traffic. You're going to hit bumps in the road. Maybe you get a flat tire. Maybe all of the people in your car are fighting over what music you're listening to or how loud the radio station is. Maybe people are backseat driving. Like you're seeing your life as if you're driving from Michigan to Florida, but God is seeing your life as if God were flying from Michigan to Florida. Now, if you don't resonate with the term God, that's okay, because you can substitute that with universe or even evolved self. Like it's like your human mind sees your life as if you're driving from Michigan to Florida. Your human mind is seeing the bumps in the road, the flat tires, the arguments, the yelling, all the things. But your evolved self, God, the universal intelligence, is seeing your life as if you're flying and smooth sailing. Like God, your evolved self, is looking down on your path from Michigan to Florida, seeing the bumps in the road, but also seeing the end of when you get to Florida and you're like in ultimate joy, peace, bliss, vacation mode, laying out in the sun, like doing the things that fill your cup. So that's just another way to look at it, is like when these shitty things are happening in our lives, we're seeing it from the driver's seat, but we're not seeing that higher view perspective of what's going to be created because we are enduring these shitty times right now. Pain is always a catalyst for growth. Always.
Yeah, amen to that. It really is. And like, so that was the thing, like knowing that we were going to talk about this today, I started thinking back to like some of the shitty things that happened or like the shit that I went through. And one of the situations was when I was in college. I used to be a bartender, and I worked at this like nightclub that was really popular, like a really popular college bar. And I loved it. Like I was making tons of money bartending. It was an awesome job for college because you work at night, which you're already like up late with your friends anyways. So, it just worked. So it was so fun. It was like cool vibes there. Like I loved it. And I used to always bug Jake. So like this was back when Jake and I were first dating, which was like 12 years ago. Good. And I was begging him to come visit me at work. And he like wasn't into the nightclub thing. So he like never ever wanted to come. So finally he like got a few of his hockey buddies and they came to visit us at work. And while they were there, I was so grateful. So I was like making them drinks and like making them all these shots, and I was putting them all on my own tab and like giving myself like employee discount because I was just going to cover their bar tab because they came to visit and I wanted them to visit. So I'm doing this, making them drinks, whatever. And like, no big deal. We have an awesome night. It was great. We had so much fun. And that was it. We go home. Okay. The next night, I go into work and I get there and I'm like getting everything prepped and ready for the night. And one of the managers like came up and he's like, "Hey, you need to go up to the office. Like, the owner needs to talk to you." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I go up there and everything, like I knew something was up to because he was acting so weird when he like came to get me. I was like, okay. So he was like, "Yeah, I saw what you did. You were giving away free drinks. That is not okay and against the rules." And I was like, "Whoa, whoa." Like I was giving him a discount, but I put them all in my tab and like I paid that tab at the end of the night. Like they were my drinks. I was buying them for those guys all night. So they weren't free. And he was like, "You were not doing that. Like I watched you and I added it up and you like you stole those drinks," is like what he was telling me. And so again, this is like before any of this sort of work, any trigger work, that's for sure. Cause I was like a psycho in college. And and
Me too.
so
By the way, me too.
yeah. So he's telling me like you stole all these drinks. And I'm first off, like everyone does that. I was like, everyone gives away free drinks when you're a bartender to your friends. And I was
Yeah.
like, and I didn't even do that. I paid for them. So I'm like,
Yeah.
stop calling me like a thief because I paid for these drinks. And he was like, "No, you didn't. I watched you and you're fired. Like, we can't have this anymore. Bye." So I was like devastated because, again, I loved this job. I loved my coworkers. Like, we were all friends. It was so fun. I made great money. Oh, I was like so upset. So I like just so pissed off. I ended up like going home. Little side story. I like go back to Jake's house and I like tell him the whole story and I'm so upset. And he felt bad because he was like, "Oh my God, like I got you fired from this job. Like I didn't know that was going to happen." I was like, "No, this is not your fault. This is my fault." And that was actually the first time that he said, "I love you." He was like, "Well, I don't know." This is a little side story. He was like, "I don't know if this is like the best time to say this to you, but I love you."
Well, there's gold nugget number one.
Yeah, right.
Any situation led to something gold.
It did
I
lead to
love
some
you
gold.
from a
That was my
boyfriend.
first nugget. But when reflecting on this, because again, like I said, this was before I did any of this work. So reflecting on this situation a little bit, at the time, I was very much like, "F you. Like, go fuck yourself. You're lost bar, nightclub. Like, you're a trashy club. I hate you." Lots of bad feelings towards them for sure. But instead of getting down on myself, instead of thinking like, "What have I done? I'm never going to get another bartending gig again. Like what am I going to do for work? Like, how am I going to make money? I'm already like a poor college kid." So it was just like, I could have gone that route and I didn't. In my mind, I was like, "Screw you, nightclub. I'm going to find something way better than you and I'm going to be way better off." And I'm not kidding you guys. Like that was kind of my mindset. And like, of course, word gets out. And before I know it, I've got one of my old managers like calling me, asking me to work at this new bar that he was opening and needed people. And he's like, I know that you're good. Like that guy's a loser. He's a drunk, like all the things. And I'm like, yeah, he sucks. I hate that guy. And so I end up going to work at this other, it was like a sports bar, which was way better and like less creepy and just like a really, really fun, good place to work. So I like loved working there. I worked there for the last couple of years of college. And I told Sarah, like, so that, like, okay, pause. That is where the lesson is for me, it was like not letting myself get down on that situation because getting
Mhm.
fired is like the worst feeling in the world,
Yeah.
especially when you're like a little goody two shoes like I was. Like, I don't get fired. So that was like a huge blow to myself, like for that night and that moment. And like, again, felt the feels without even like realizing it because I,
Mhm.
poured my heart out to Jake that night. But I also like didn't let that limit me and like
Mhm.
determine my future. Like, no,
Right.
I'm going to find something better.
Yeah.
But then I told Sarah, like, petty me, like a couple years later, I like was out at the bars downtown, and mind you, this is like in my college days. And I'm like waiting in line to get into this one. And sure as shit, I get up to the door. And who is the door guy? The freaking old owner who fired me. Oh, sucks to suck because you used to own a bar and now you're a door guy.
Well,
So,
what you
pet
put out into the
peeve.
universe, you get back. Okay, so backing it up real quick, I think too, I mean, now of course you're looking back on this, but first of all, it totally happened for you. It
Yeah.
absolutely happened for you because like your higher self, your subconscious mind knew that there was something better out there for you, which was a sports bar. That's what like the biggest thing I took from that, because I used to be a bartender, is not as creepy. I used
Mm-hmm.
to be a
Oh,
waitress,
yeah.
like creepy environment sometimes. So first of all, that happened for you because, and I was given this advice when I first started my business. Somebody's like, listen, every client, like when a client leaves, it's because a better one is coming, or somebody more aligned with your vision and like what you want to do, the work you want to do in the world is coming. And say, I always believe that with jobs, like if you choose that to be your belief, that will always be true for you. Like you lose one job or you leave one job because you're not happy, a better one is coming, but you have to put your belief in that. And clearly you did. So there's that. Also, just to put it in more so like terms of what we talk about here on the show, is what you were doing in that moment unknowingly at the time. You weren't letting somebody else determine your worth. You weren't taking this one experience, this one situation of, the whole bar tab thing and then like getting fired over it. You weren't allowing that to be like, oh, Mary, you got fired, which means you are unworthy, because that is so untrue. Just because you got fired doesn't mean you're unworthy. It reminds me of one of my past mentors, Tori Washington, who we've talked about in the show. She went bankrupt, like, and she didn't let that determine who she was at the core of who she is. Like, we are all worthy, we are all enough, we are all loved, no matter what happens in our external world. Do we make mistakes? Do people fuck up? Yeah, for sure. But like, you didn't, not saying that what you did was a mistake, because like you're 100% right, all the bartenders give out free drinks all the time,
Right.
and you
Still
pay for
don't
yours.
steal
Like,
drinks from the bar.
you are better than the mass bartenders. That's not what I'm saying, but I am saying in general, like there's things that I've definitely done in life that they were a mistake and they were my bad. And that's why we've talked about this too, we're always checking ourselves and being like, okay, like, if somebody gets upset with me for something, I'm always checking myself first. Is there validity to this? And if there is, let me approach it from that place first. But moral of the story is, you didn't let that determine your worth. And you actually, I would say, outside looking in, and once again, here's where the gold comes in, situations and experiences like that in your life, and all of you guys listening, and all of your lives and my life, those situations that feel super shitty are the best time to level the fuck up. Like,
Mm-hmm.
during that experience, I guarantee you that your sense of innate self-worth and enoughness was actually enhanced. Even though it took a blow on that first night, I guarantee you that it grew after you got a call from your manager a couple days later. Like, you started to snap into like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, like I am worthy, I am enough. Like, one drunk bar owner isn't going to determine my worth or my enoughness. It's like you learned that lesson even though you didn't really know that you were learning that lesson.
Yes, exactly. So I know it's one of those things that's fun. It's fun to reflect back on that sort of stuff and be like,
Mhm.
wow, I can't believe, this stuff works. Even before I knew what it was, it freaking
Yeah.
works.
Right. That reminds me of just any triggers. I mean, I had one, like I mentioned, I'm not going to go into it in super detail right now, but I had a trigger yesterday, and it's like it feels super shitty in the moment, but you always have the ability to turn triggers to gold. And it's in that state of being triggered that it's almost like, okay, hold on. An image is coming to me. It's like when you're triggered, okay, you know how if you have like a solid substance, and I'm trying to think of a material, let's say plastic. So you have a piece of plastic. If you start to heat that plastic up, it's going to melt. It's going to change form. That plastic's going to melt, and it's going to be easier to morph into something else, right? So that's kind of how I'm seeing right now. That's the image that's coming up for triggers. It's like when you are triggered and when you are activated, or when you're going through something that feels really, really shitty, that is when you are like that melted plastic. In the heat, in the triggers, it kind of just like works hand in hand, because when I'm triggered, I feel heated.
Yes.
And it's like my body is heating up. And that's the time where I like the melted plastic, where I'm most susceptible to changing and shifting who I am internally.
And I love that. And like to take that even one step further, like we get to choose what we get shaped into.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what we get to choose.
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't necessarily get to choose when the heat is applied,
Right.
but we have that choice. Like, are we going to let life mold us, or are we going to make that conscious choice and like
Exactly.
decide how we want to shift and change?
Exactly. Because there have been many times in the past when I didn't know about this work that I allowed myself to come from the place of this is happening to me and this fucking sucks. And I let experiences, situations, triggers, low vibe feelings determine my reality for a really long time, until I made the conscious choice that no, I'm not doing that anymore. Like I'm going to choose to look at this from the lens of this is happening for me, even if it doesn't like, and it's like so hard to explain in human mind terms. But I'm going to go into like just the experience that I'm going through right now with my grandma, and like the grief that has come up for me. I've told you guys last week, I've never experienced grief like this before, ever. I've never lost anybody who was like super close to me. Um, and so my grandma transitioning, I mean, it's something that I can't control, right? I couldn't control it. I tried to help the best of my ability, and it just didn't work. Like it was her time, it was her choice. I believe that part of it was her choice to transition. You know, she was ready for the next phase, for the next realm. That was something that was like out of my control. And yet still, I'm not going to sit here. And honestly, I probably even before this work wouldn't sit here and say like this happened to me, because it didn't. Like that was my grandma's experience that I was affected by. Of course, like the mind in me is super sad and really like upset and like missing her. And at the same time, I'm allowing myself to like look for the gold nuggets. First of all, like I know my grandma would want me to, like she wants us to all be okay, right? And like in my opinion, the best way to be okay again is to feel and process the grief and find the gold nuggets in something like this. My mom was telling me, because my mom has lost both of her parents and two siblings now. And so my mom was telling me, she's like, listen, everyone, if they allow themselves to, is going to learn and grow from this. Like I learned and grew from my parents' deaths, from my siblings' death. I've seen so many people do the same. So you have the option too. And I'm like, you're right. Like, so right now where I'm at, and I haven't fully processed it yet, but of course, when the grief comes up, I'm allowing myself to go into the grief, feel the grief, and I have my own processes on how to feel it in order to heal it. And I'm like, okay, where are the gold nuggets? So one of the gold nuggets that I found so far is now I can relate to people who are going through grief. Before I really couldn't. Like I knew what grief was, but I never really felt it until now. Well, now that I'm feeling it, I can use that to, help others who are grieving, help them grieve and help them process and help them come out of their dark time and back into the light through feeling through it. So yeah, there's just shitty situations and experiences are always here for us, no matter how like that might sound a little harsh to some situations. And like, that's okay. And it does sound harsh until you feel your way out of the darkness and back into the lightness and realize the gold nuggets. Not to say that like because I don't want to downplay it. Like the grief in my body from losing my grandma will always be there.
Mhm.
And there will always be like a little part of me, missing, that feels like it's missing, or like that like longs for her presence. And at the same time, I can use those moments as opportunities. Like I still believe I can connect with her and talk to her, and I do. And so I'm not saying that it's like I'm never gonna feel that grief again, because I will. Like I did over the weekend, and there was a moment today that I had that I felt it, and that will still come up. But it's okay to like not be okay and find the gold nuggets so that you can continue to evolve and create that happy, joyful life that you truly deserve in this lifetime.
Yeah. Absolutely. And well said, because I feel like navigating I mean, it's one thing to talk about like the day-to-day shit that we deal with, like
Mhm.
getting in a fight with a friend or whatever, getting fired, all that's pretty can be pretty, life altering. But when you're dealing with some of those really, really heavy feelings and experiences that are like tragic
Yeah.
and feel like losing a loved one, a family member, a friend, like that is hard
Yeah.
to do.
Right.
So
And
it's
everybody, of course, is going to have their own experiences with it. But like, I am a firm believer that like things like that, it's like we can't change them because we can't change the past. Like we can't go back and redo the past. We can bring everything that's happened in the past, and we can use the data from the past, bring it to the present moment, and we can use it to grow and to find ourselves and connect to our evolved selves and connect to that godly divine energy within our bodies, or we can use it to absolutely destroy us. And when it comes to losing people to the divine, and like, people in our lives leaving and transitioning from earth back to the heavens or back to the soul worlds.
You know what this reminds me of is the show that I watched on Netflix about near death experiences. And obviously, the show is made up, but on Grey's Anatomy, I feel like it keeps coming up on that show too. But it's that idea of like when crazy things happen, when really, really intense things happen to us, like in the show on Netflix, like those near death experiences, that is sometimes when the most profound shifts happen
Mhm.
because it like snaps us out of our like everyday life and
Mhm.
like helps us reprioritize what is really important.
Mhm.
I feel like that goes hand in hand with like what we're talking about here. Like shitty things, like it doesn't mean that those shitty things are feel good and that we're like happy that they happened. And it's like tragic things can still happen and still be a tragedy.
Mhm.
That's okay. But it goes down to like, how do we move forward?
Yeah.
How do we move on? And sometimes the most dramatic things, like when it is a death. So, like, I've experienced death in my family as well. And I feel like that is always that deep reminder of like saying, I love you to the people that matter, reconnecting to the people I haven't talked to in a long time. Because, you think like, well, what if something happened to them? But like in your day to day life, you're not thinking like that most
Yeah.
often. And
Right.
I think that can be a really profound takeaway, and you can have all sorts of takeaways from that.
Yeah.
But when they are those really deep and profound experiences, and I say profound can be on the scale of like good profound, bad
Mhm.
profound, you know, it sucks that that happens if it's a bad thing, but you still have that opportunity to like decide how you move forward.
Right. And with that too, I feel like it's humans transitioning is always like the greatest opportunity for the loved ones to connect to themselves deeper. I mentioned that before a second ago, but I'm using my grandma transitioning as an opportunity to really dive into the part of me that I know is still connected to the divine, the soul world, to heaven. Like our souls are literally from the place that our souls go back to afterward. So I'm using this as a time to connect deeper to myself so that I can continue to feel her presence and communicate with her, which I do. I fully feel her presence still now more than ever.
Love
And it's a
that.
beautiful thing. And then like at the same time, like the people who do transition, I just keep coming back to like they don't want us to sit here and suffer and like be in a state of like mourning and grieving 100% of the time for the rest of our lives. They don't want that,
Mhm.
especially when you're transitioned from earth to the soul world or to heaven. Like you are at this place of divine peace, bliss, joy, freedom, expansion. Like you're at a higher vibration than you will ever experience here on earth. So of course you want the same for your loved ones loved earthling ones, you know?
Oh, you're so much nicer than me. I told Jake that if I die and he dates a hot chick, that I'm gonna haunt him forever. So watch it,
Jack and I
Jake.
have had this conversation before. I'm like, would you want me to find somebody? Because I feel like I wouldn't want you to. He's like,
The
yeah, I would. I'm like, okay, fine. Like, I guess I would want you to be
I
happy.
mean, I guess.
But not this person, not this person, this person, or this person.
Right. Okay, but in all seriousness, the other kind of scenario I want to bring up that I think is another shitty experience is breakups, whether that is with a partner or even in friendships. I kind of feel like friendship breakups are kind of brushed under the rug. Like people don't realize how hard those can be to navigate because it's not this like romantic relationship, but those can also leave a lot of wounds in the body if they're not processed and
Yeah.
worked through.
Yeah.
And so I know because again, thinking back, reflecting on some of the shittier times of my life, like some of them were going through breakups. And I know for me, breakups really, really hit my worthiness wound. And
Mhm.
they really they took me down like way more than the job did.
Mhm.
And there were some that just took so I still feel like there are I feel like now I've made it through, but mind you, this has been like years and years and years and years. But it was years of feeling shitty, of feeling not worthy,
Mhm.
until I got to this point that I am now. But I think even so, the example I'll use is Jake and I broke up for a little while. So, the lessons for me, going through that this moment, obviously we ended up getting back together. But I remember sitting down and journaling and telling myself, you are going, and this is right when I was starting to get into law of attraction stuff. So I was very much aware of that aspect of it where I said, I'm here to attract the right person for me. And I wrote down all the qualities of what I wanted in a partner. What do I want my partner to have? And how do I want them to treat me? And how do I want our relationship to be? And I dove deep into this dreamy person. I just kept my mantra was the right person for me is on their way to me. The right person for me is on their way to me. And it's an interesting story because I feel and again, starting to get into manifestation. So I knew a little bit about this, but also some of it I think was just happening and unfolding this way. But the idea of I was clearing space for what I wanted and what I wanted to create, attract to me.
Mhm.
And if I would have just stayed so hung up on I'm not good enough, Jake doesn't want to treat me this way, even though I ended it, it was because he wasn't treating me the way I wanted to be treated. And I don't want to throw Jake under the bus. He wasn't doing anything horrible, but it just wasn't the
Right.
above and beyond princess treatment that I wanted at the time, which I deserved and
Yeah.
like
Still do.
I wanted that and he
Yeah.
wasn't giving that to me. And that still sucked. Going through all this, even though I knew at the time he wasn't a good fit for me, I was still heartbroken. I was still really, really upset. So I think that's a good example of showing feeling like shit, even though you're bringing it on yourself because you're I know I need to transition and get into something different.
Mhm.
And so that was a scenario where I put all my focus and attention and energy on what I wanted to attract and what I wanted to create in my next relationship and then be that person that I wanted to be in the next relationship.
So what you're saying is that you took the shitty situation of the breakup, you let yourself feel those feels, and then you use those feels as motivation to turn that shit into gold by starting to get into law of attraction, manifestation, desire, deciding on what you wanted and trusting and believing that what you wanted was going to come. And it just happened to be this new version of Jake.
Yes.
So, and that's awesome that, Jake shifted in that amount of time too. I think we've talked about this actually, all of this on the podcast before. It's also very rare that happens, that it ends up being the same person a month later. So yeah, breakups just in general, with relationships or with friendships, that absolutely, I always tell friends going through breakups, whether it's a friendship breakup or an intimate relationship breakup, of course, you have to feel your feels and you have to grieve that shit. I've never, of course, I'm learning a lot about grief right now, but I wish I would have grieved, and moving forward, I will grieve a lot of things, not just deaths, not just transitions of humans, but
Right.
there's got to be a grieving process for losing friendships, breakups. You have to go into that and feel it. And you can use those moments of breaking up with other humans as an opportunity to connect deeper to yourself than ever. You can let the breakup destroy you and allow it to send you into a downward spiral of anxiety and worry and loneliness and fear and self-doubt. And of course, those things are going to creep up. But when they do, I'm inviting you to feel through them and then use it as an opportunity to connect deeper with yourself. Because in breakups in my past, those times of breakups, whether it was friendships or intimate relationships, were the times where I went deeper into my own body and my own soul than ever before. My connection to the divine, to my higher self, to my intuition, to God, whatever you want to call it, strengthened during those moments. But you have to let them. You have to like really put your faith in everything's happening for me in perfect timing, which takes time and takes work. But that's why we repeat that quote on almost every episode, because it is so needed. Like that repetitiveness of that quote is needed to actually fully believe that. And still to this day, I remind myself of it every single moment, especially when I'm going through something hard. I always like, this is happening for me in perfect timing. I know it is. So it's leaning into that quote and trusting in that allows you to turn the shit in life into gold, because the shit is here for us always. I would say always. And some people might not agree. And if you don't, that's absolutely okay. But I would say the shit's always here for us. Like, once again, if life were just nothing but rainbow and butterflies, we would never learn and grow into the highest versions of us. We wouldn't do what our souls actually came here to do, which is evolve and learn lessons on this earthly plane.
Ugh, I wish I had this episode like back in my early college days.
I know, me too. Oh, so you guys, there you have it. Turning shit into golds. And yeah, apply this to your life in whatever way feels aligning to you. But I'm really glad that we chose to do this episode, because it's a good reminder always for the minds in us that shitty situations in life can be turned into something very, very beautiful if you allow it to.
Yeah, I'm literally going to write down like this is happening for me on a sticky note so that I can always have that reminder, because it's probably one of the biggest lessons that we talk about on this podcast, and would be, if that's like the one thing you take from this episode, like let it be that, because it's powerful.
Right.
So go get your merch, you guys.
Yeah, go get merch.
What is the discount code till the end of the month?
Vibey Summer for 20% off. But if you rate and review us, send it to us, a screenshot of it, we will give you a secret code for 30% off. Yes. And you can shop we'll leave the links in the show notes. And if you're watching this on YouTube, the link will be there as well, but it's hervibeisprettypodcast.com. You'll have a little shop tab you can go to, and you can shop all of the merch there. So go get your merch. Make sure you send us pictures when you have it on. And we are super excited to see y'all rocking your Vibey gear.
Yay. We love you guys so much. Go have an incredible week, and we will catch you here next week on Her Vibe is Pretty.
Bye.
Bye.